hands. Maybe they're resting on the tops of your knees. Maybe they're resting on a table or a desk. And if you're comfortable doing so, closing your eyes. And we're going to match the inhale with the upstrum and the exhale with the downstrum. So inhale. And exhale. And inhale. One last inhale. And exhale. All right. I always love to start my presentations off with connecting with music, being that music is everything that I do. So as I was introduced, my name is Melissa Sommers, board certified music therapist and neurologic music therapist. And I own a company called Harmonic Changes Therapy Services. And we provide community-based services to the greater Chicagoland area, as well as the greater Los Angeles area. We're kind of bi-coastal, but not really. So as you heard really quickly with my introduction, board certified music therapist since 2006, my master's degree with a focus in neurologic music therapy. And one of my favorite questions I get asked pretty much instantly when somebody hears music in my title is, what do you play? And my favorite response is I play just about everything except the didgeridoo. With our coursework and the required education to become a board certified music therapist, we have to be well versed. As music is our tool, we want to make sure we have a wide tool belt. We'll get into why in a minute. So what is music therapy? Fortunately for our profession, we're getting a lot more news coverage and people are becoming more and more aware of what music therapy is. But the official definition from the American Music Therapy Association is basically we're using music as our main tool, but everything a music therapist is working on and addressing is non-musical areas. So just now when we were connecting with the harp was holding us together and organizing that inhale and the exhale, but the ultimate goal and focus was that inward reflection and drawing a little more awareness of your body posture, the energy that maybe you were holding, and ultimately giving your mind a little bit of a break and connecting with your breath again. Board certified music therapist. So as I mentioned, within our coursework, to get into a school of music for a music therapy program, you have to audition on an instrument. And then in your coursework, I know in my coursework for undergrad, I had a semester of guitar techniques, semester of woodwind techniques, brass techniques, string techniques, percussion techniques. And again, it's because every single instrument holds different qualities and holds different physical demands. It holds different sounds, different potential harmonies and complexities within just the natural way an instrument is played. This harp, for example, has about 37 strings, and it's going to create a much different sound than the guitar back here, which only has 6, versus the keyboard that's over on my far end over here, which has 73 keys. So each of those instruments carry different qualities and just who they are and how they function. And a music therapist is specialized in knowing what instrument to bring in and how that can be used for that music experience for those non-musical areas that we're supporting. After we complete our required coursework, then we have to complete a 1,200 post-education clinical internship, which is roughly about 6 months full-time, pass the dreaded board certification exam, and then maintain the continuing education every 5 years. This is kind of the boring stuff, but I always like to let people know when somebody says they're a music therapist to make sure that they're board certified, because this is what it means behind it. What it also shows us through our education is all of the amazing things that music does to our brain and to our body, and then how that informs the work that we do when we're assessing an individual or a group, and then how we're applying music through those experiences to support those needs. So this is a fun graphic of kind of the expected things that our brain does. So left side is more analytical, logical, organized, literal, I thought I had a typo. And then the right side is stereotypically more creative, more musical, more empathic, kind of those two different domains. And what research shows us is when we listen to music, those same sides of the brain have dual functions with music. Basically, music activates both hemispheres at the same time. So when you listen to a song that has rhythm and you listen to a song that has melody, both left and right side of your brain are engaged at the same time. Pretty cool. And what research continues to show us and inform us is that through those different instruments, through the different genres or styles of music, different languages, different keys, different rhythmic patterns, different tempos or speeds, each one of that portion of music sends a different path of information through our brain. So in theory, with all of the wide spectrum that music can be, it has the ability to be processed in nearly every nook and cranny of our brain, depending on what instrument you're listening to, what style of music you're listening to, the tempo, the speed. But I think that also really holds true to why we have preferences of music, is because we are all unique. No two brains are the same. So knowing that music is so individualized, it's because it's really matching how your brain functions, and it's making those connections in a way that feel meaningful to you. The other great thing is the way music affects our body. So I have been in many hospital rooms, and the client or the patient that I'm working with, I'm able to actually see firsthand their blood pressure decrease, their heart rate start to entrain and even out with whatever song that I'm playing. Granted, I'm picking songs strategically to match where their natural heart rate is, but it's a nice way to help lower a heart rate if it's elevated, or maybe increase arousal level by playing a song a little bit faster than what the heart rate is. And it also increases oxygen levels in your blood and to your brain, which will then help you feel more awake, more alert, more aroused, more engaged. So aside from that, the galvanic skin response, the goosebumps, I'm sure we've all had that experience of listening to a song and instantly you're covered in goosebumps. And that's because of just an autonomic response that our bodies have to music. For me, it's always the Star Spangled Banner at big sporting events. I get really excited and amped up, and it's a moment. But also, more importantly, it can reduce some anxiety, some fatigue, depression, and it can decrease pain awareness. So a huge new point of research with music therapy is using music therapy post-surgery. And it's really encouraging results showing that the need for pain medication is less when music therapy is implemented post-surgery during that recovery period. It's pretty cool. So music is very powerful. And I'm sure a lot of this isn't anything new to you. Everybody has had that experience of connecting with a song or connecting with music in a way that feels way deeper than just listening to it. So it's really nice, I think, now that we're seeing the research to support it. And historically, music has been used as a healing modality since BC. And it's interesting when you do the kind of historical deep dive in how music was implemented and at times prescribed. But historically, music has always been an important modality to help with health and wellness for as far back as we can know and read. So I mentioned my master's degree is in neurologic music therapy. So what is that? So it's a deeper dive into the cognitive, sensory, and motor areas of various neurologic diseases on our nervous system. And it's really a set of interventions and techniques that are heavily researched, and it is a way of looking at how you're applying music therapy. So a lot of individuals that are great within NMT would be an individual with a traumatic brain injury, Parkinson's, Huntington's, cerebral palsy, Alzheimer's, autism, stroke. And it really encompasses neurologic rehab and neuropsych, neurogeriatric, neurodevelopment therapy. And like I mentioned, the NMT interventions are standardized and evidence-based, and they can be used to support therapeutic goals and interventions to address rehab, development, and maintenance of functional behaviors. So there's 20 different NMT techniques that really take all of the research, and it's very standardized, and it's really a great combination of all of our music therapy education, but now through this lens specifically. So this is taken from the NMT Academy website, and it shows you kind of just music as the center, but then all of these areas and domains in which music can help support. So if we look at attention, there's specific techniques for sustained attention, alternating attention, divided attention. I know divided attention is something I'm always working on. Motor control is such a great thing to pair music with. The whole implementation and creation of music therapy as a profession was really established after World War II. There were musicians, professional and amateur, that were going into veterans hospitals trying to initially help with morale and help enhance mood and give back a little bit to veterans as they were returning home from war. And what they quickly discovered was when music was present, individuals were walking longer. They were walking more consistent. They were walking more stable. And that really led to developing the first official music therapy program at Michigan State. And then it really honed in on needing training, needing qualified, credentialed individuals who knew what they were doing and how that music was being applied. And again, what research shows us is that when your brain hears 2 steady beats, it automatically anticipates the third, and it tells your body to move. So that's why one of my favorite examples is you have a little 8-month-old sitting on the floor, and you turn on a song, whether they've heard it or not. If there's a steady beat, within 10 to 20 seconds, that little one is going to start bopping to whatever you're listening to without even realizing it. And we've all had that experience of being out in public, or being somewhere maybe where you're a little less familiar, maybe a little more anxious, and you tap into whatever song is playing, and you might find yourself moving along to it, because what that's doing is it's helping regulate your body, and that minimizing a little of that anxiety, because rhythm is organizing, it's comforting, it's predictable. And as music therapists, we really tap into making sure that we're using music that is rhythmically organizing. We always have metronomes with us. I know I don't have it on right now, but my little smartwatch even has a metronome on it that like it'll vibrate the beat, so I can make sure that what I'm doing is stable and consistent. Because again, if we're wanting to create a predictable environment to help organize some of that motor cues and those motor responses, we want that rhythm to be very stable and steady. Gait is a huge area where music therapy is so helpful, because again, rhythm naturally invokes movement. So finding the right tempo to sing a song, maybe pairing with a physical therapist if we're able to co-facilitate, or with somebody to help stable, we can work on gait and movement. There's an NMT technique, patterned sensory enhancement, which is really great with range of motion, facilitating and composing little melodies to help reflect what movement we're trying to support and expand. Because even with the little harp exercise, the way that I was structuring it reflected the natural rise and fall of your chest as you were inhaling and exhaling. And the emotions, huge thing that we address within music therapy. What, again, I love research. And what research shows us is because music is stored in all those different areas of our brain when we're listening to music, so are those memories attached to music. So I like to say that sometimes music or songs are like a fun little time capsule where you hear a song and you're immediately brought back to feeling similar feelings you had at an earlier stage in life when you heard that song. One of my favorite examples to use with this is when I was, I think I was maybe 10 or 11, my younger brother and I were playing Monopoly Junior, and we were listening to the radio. And the song by Sheryl Crow, All I Wanna Do Is Have Some Fun, came on. And within that 4 minutes of that song, a huge life event happened. My brother cheated at Monopoly Junior, which I'm still trying to figure out how that happened. I became furious at him and threw the board across the room. And then we quickly resolved, as young kids do, resumed the game, and we shared a bowl of pistachio nuts. Now, many years later, every single time I hear that song, it immediately brings me back to that huge emotional experience, so much so that I feel like I can taste the pistachio nuts again. And we really tap into connecting emotionally to music with all ages that we support, but in particular for individuals that might feel a little disconnected from loved ones. So I like to also use music and say music is a great way to feel connected to somebody if you're not able to physically be with them. What song makes you feel connected to a loved one? It might be their favorite song. It might be a song that represents a time that you cherish, that you spent together. It might be a song that just really represents and invokes your emotional connection with that person, and using that song to make you feel a little closer. And that's something that I want to encourage all of us to do now more than ever in this pandemic, is what song makes you feel connected to somebody that maybe you're not able to be with right now, and to tap into listening to that song and allowing you to take a little bit of that sentimental journey and connect with that person as distantly as they may be. Music is also a great way to help regulate emotions and mood. Knowing, again, within music therapy, there's something called the ISO principle, and it's using music structurally and strategically in an order that can help an individual move through emotions and move from one emotion to a targeted goal emotion. So starting countless sessions, an individual that I'm working with might feel a little agitated, they might be irritated, and starting off our time together with meeting them with a little bit more of that intensity. And then as the time together progresses, slowly reducing that intensity to eventually, I've had this happen quite a few times, where at the end, it's almost like a dance party. We're singing and we're having fun, but it's because of that mood control and tapping in and meeting them where they were at. And through that constant stable rhythm, changing the chords, the intensity, the volume, the force, all of those music qualities to help move through that emotion into the emotion that is the ultimate target or goal. Perception, auditory, sensory integration. Music is a huge sensory experience. If you're in person, which music, you know, right now over this platform, music has a lot of great qualities, but when you're in person, I'm going to bring my harp back out again. But basically, when you hear one note, well, I'll do a different one. That's better. Any stringed instrument, when you hear one note, what happens is you're actually hearing 13 overtones at the same time. So your brain is prioritizing this tone, but it's also processing 13 overtones that are just kind of information flowing into your brain, but the priority is this note. So it's a huge, rich sensory experience. And again, that influences what instruments we're bringing in, knowing what the sensory processing looks like with each individual, and knowing is going to create a much different response sensory-wise than just this. And how does that inform the response and the goal and the engagement? Executive functioning, huge, great thing that we support a lot with music. Organizing, planning, decision-making, inhibition. A lot of what we do kind of piggybacks over into all of these techniques, but what instrument are we going to use? And then how does an individual use it to play and participate in that music making experience? Are we creating opportunities for songwriting? Are we trying to have clear structure within a song, a verse, a chorus, coda, all of those big music words? If you're not musically inclined or educated, that's completely fine. It's just the organization of a song. And getting into even more with technology these days, kind of more like song composition and tapping into all of that great stuff. And then so many people also recognize how influential and supportive music is with language, expressive and receptive language, articulation, and very rhythmically speaking things so that it can be understood. Speech development, vocal quality, being able to project a voice and speak at a volume that's audible and understandable to who you're talking to. And so many times I will start a session and the individual that I'm working with isn't necessarily the most engaged, but I start a song or two, ones that I know are familiar. And after a while, and knowing their song preferences and their history, and, you know, really assessing what they're capable of doing, they're singing along, they're filling in the blanks. When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, what will I be? Right? So creating those opportunities through anticipation and through rhythm and organization to have that expressive language start presenting purposefully within songs. And then as that song continues, eventually leaving out more words. And then we get to the chorus, que sera, sera. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe they're singing all of those phrases and lines. And then the hope is that for a few minutes after that song, we can engage and reminisce and get into those memories and get into the emotions and the connection they maybe had with that song. Or even just a little lyric analysis. Que sera, sera. What does that mean? Fun fact, it's Spanglish. It's not Italian or Spanish, like I get a lot of people thinking it's Spanglish. It's not really English or Spanish. But getting into more of those cognitive connections with songs and using the song as a way to organize the conversation and organize the information that's being discussed and shared. So taking a deeper dive, when we're thinking about NMT and we're working on cognition, music elements such as melody, rhythm, dynamics, and timbre is the tone and quality, are used to provide powerful and complex stimulation to the cognitive processes. Cognitive exercises stimulate, again, non-musical cognitive tasks within a musical structure. And then therapeutic music experiences, we call TMEs, can be used to address several cognitive goals, including attention, memory, executive function, and sensory integration. So just that little example of Que Sera Sera has a lot of these looped into it that we can definitely go deeper into within just an activity of singing a song together. Sensorimotor, we're tapping into melody and harmony, rhythm and dynamics to cue and support movement. So thinking back again about Que Sera Sera, if I'm wanting to help facilitate shifting weight from side to side, Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera, right? What will be, is a great song to use to help facilitate that side-to-side movement and to help organize the expectation of what do I do, when do I move? Because that rhythm and the feel behind it naturally elicits that sway movement, and tapping into that. Goals can be related to coordination, range of motion. So instead of swaying side to side, we might be doing Que sera, sera, whatever will be. For example, if we're wanting to facilitate moving an arm out and back. Balance and strength, again, tapping into the whole creation of music therapy as a profession. Noticing endurance. People were wanting to work harder and longer when music was present, because aside from all of the great things it does, it's also a really nice way to fill time. If you're singing a song for 4 minutes, it's going to feel very different than watching a clock for 4 minutes. And it's a great way to help push through and think, okay, I just want to get to one more chorus. Oh, I just want to finish this song and then I'll take a break. It's also really good targets for time to help support endurance. And if you're doing it live, maybe the next time you do it, the tempo is a little slower, so the song is just a little longer, so you have to work on that endurance a little bit more. And gait regulation, again, huge area for music therapy is gait, which is walking, and using music at the appropriate tempo to help facilitate more even gait, to help facilitate better weight bearing on both feet, to help facilitate walking for longer periods. All of those areas that a physical therapist might be working on, pairing with music therapy to help support might be a great co-treatment modality. And again, speech and language. My favorite example to help support how music informs speech and language is thinking about how, if you grew up in the States, how you learned your ABCs. I can bet most of you are thinking, oh, I learned it through A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, through the ABC song. And a fun little challenge I want to throw out for each of you now is to say your ABCs. And I'll give you a quick second to just say your ABCs. Now, maybe you were done with them, maybe you weren't, but the idea being, most of you probably said A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you paused. H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, you paused and you implemented the rhythm of the song. And if you made it to the end, I would be curious of how many of you concluded it with, now I know my ABCs, which is technically not part of the alphabet, but that's such a great example of how music gave you the information, how your brain stored it, and how it's now recalling that information because it was organized with melody and with rhythm. And it was chunked in a way that our brains are very successful with organizing and recalling because it's 7 beats: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. So it's all 7 beats or less. And research shows us that that's how we best recall and store information, is in chunks of 7 or less. Another fun fact is that melody it's actually the same melody for, depending on your music knowledge, 1 or 2 other very, very popular songs that we all grew up with, or we sang to children or grandchildren. And the other 2 songs are Twinkle Twinkle, exact same melody, and Baba Black Sheep, almost exact same melody. So it's a technique we use a lot in music therapy, is a successful melody and essentially replacing the lyrics to contain the information that we're trying to either teach somebody, we're trying to maintain, we're trying to help integrate. With speech and language, there's a lot of techniques used of being able to recall family members and how many children and grandchildren somebody might have, what day of the week it is. And it's through that musical repetition of easy to remember melodies that, again, are 7 beats or 7 bits of information or less, so that it's easily recallable and integrated and learned. So within NMT, interventions can be used to address a range of speech and language goals, including speech development, word retrieval, fluency, articulation, breath support, voicing volume, vocal inflection, and nonverbal expressive communication. And so much of the way we communicate is nonverbally. So music is a great way to help expand and elaborate nonverbal communication through call and response on percussion instruments, call and response with just vocal inflection, kind of like fun, playful ways that we can integrate that within the therapeutic music experience to work on some of those goals. So my dogs are getting excited. Sorry about that. I love a good quote. Who doesn't love a good quote? And I think this is one of the most popularly used quotes that we find in the music therapy world is, where words fail, music speaks. And I think that really holds true to a lot of what we see within the work that we do as music therapists, and the power that music has with each and every one of us, with our memories, with our emotions, with sometimes the way that we interact with the world. Going back into knowing how important rhythm is, I wanted to send you all away with a couple of points of reflection, if you will, knowing most, if not all of you, are not music therapists. So what does this mean? How can you use it? So one thing that I really love to draw awareness to is your rhythm. Each of us has our own natural rhythm, and that shows up in how quickly we might speak, how quickly we naturally walk, how quickly we make decisions. When we're organizing our day, how busy do we like to be? A reflection maybe on those that we surround ourselves with, and kind of sending you out with a little task or a mission on taking note and awareness and observing your natural rhythm. I know I tend to have a faster rhythm. I get a little impulsive, impatient, I grew up in a very big Italian family, so lots of fast talking and loud talking, and we walk very fast. My dad is 6'5", and I was raised with you keep up or you get left behind, so I learned to walk really quickly. So in general, my natural rhythm tends to be on the quicker side. And what does that mean? So I know that within 2 minutes of whoever I'm interacting with, 2 minutes or less, I'm consciously tuning into their rhythm. And I'm going to modify my rhythm a little bit so that I can find a compatible rhythm that works with them. And I really think that also informs who we surround ourselves with and who we maybe clash with a little bit, is on if we can find a way to balance our rhythm with their rhythm. And if we can't, then that might be just those individuals that we just constantly kind of misfire, or we just can't vibe with, or we can't kind of find a rhythm. And then those that we have really strong connections to are because their natural rhythm complements ours, and we're able to find that balance. And I think that shows up a lot with important people in our life and people we want to make relationships with. So tapping into what your rhythm is first to have that awareness, but then how does that inform your relationship with others? I know whenever I speak with my sister, her rhythm is kind of the polar opposite of mine. So before I answer the call, if she calls me, or before I hit talk to call her, I'll take a second or two and really note my rhythm and try to slow it down and be aware that hers is going to be much slower than I can even prepare for. She likes to really be process-based and reflect on things before making decisions. She really likes to do her research and really likes to feel prepared and all of those questions answered before making decisions. And that shows up with everything. You know, she was always the one that was like, we got to go. You're not ready yet. How is this? Come on, we got to go. Just because her rhythm was so much slower. So all of those things I think can inform in our relationships and how we interact with others and within the world. And then the other thing that I'll go back. Well, I'll leave that up there if you're interested in any of those links. The other thing that I really wanted to send you away with is tapping into your loved one, whether it's a parent, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, a neighbor, whomever that you might be supporting right now, taking an extra minute or two and tapping into their song preferences and their history. And if you know more about specific songs and how they relate to maybe your relationship with them or their relationship with other important people in their lives, creating some playlists. I know now with Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music, I think those are the three major ones, creating that sentimental playlist of all of those songs. Maybe the song that was played when they got married, a song that represents, you know, if they have multiple children, a song that represents each one of their children, or a song that represents grandchildren, maybe a song even going back that represents their parent or parents, and creating that sentimental playlist as a really nice way to take those journeys together and listen to songs that bring them to an earlier time, is one great playlist to create. Another great playlist to create, tapping into each of you and knowing taking care of a loved one is such a meaningful thing, but it's also a lot. So tapping into using music as your own tool to help with your emotional regulation and creating a power playlist. Number one, if anybody asks me what emotional playlist should I create, the number one thing I will tell everybody to do is to create your power playlist. And your power playlist is those songs that when you listen to, you feel like $1,000,000. You feel like Rocky running up those steps. You feel invincible. So those are those songs that when you listen to, you have your Superman cape on or whatever a superhero looks like to you, but you feel invincible. Those are those power anthems that will push you through, because life now more than ever, I'm using my power playlist more than I ever have before, because life more than ever now is so unpredictable. And I'm having more and more days where I'm just like, oh, okay, I can do this. But that only gets so far. So adding music and that power playlist to really help push through that emotion and that willpower in a way to help with that. But then at the end of the day, after you've had your power playlist, and I also use it before like important meetings or things that I might feel anxious or worried about, I tap into my power playlist to help me feel more confident. Because we know from what I was sharing earlier that music can directly influence moods and help shift from one to the other. So listening to a power playlist can evoke confidence. But then at the end of the day, sometimes I just want to calm down and I just need to relax. So I have my playlist that is, I call it chill and relax. And it's not something that's going to put me to sleep, but it's something that I find organizing and calming. And I tend to tap into that at the end of the day, maybe with a little glass of wine or something. But my playlist that I'm listening to is that chill and relax playlist, where it's comforting, it's predictable, it's organizing, and ultimately it's calming. So it's helping me decompress from my day. And then once you kind of get familiar with those emotional playlists, possibilities are endless. I think I have 12 or 14 different emotional playlists. I have an anger one, I have a sad one, I have, a party one for good times. I have my sentimental playlist of fond songs that are those time capsules for me. And what's great is they're at my fingertips. So by listening to music that resonates in the emotion I'm feeling, it helps me feel it a little bit deeper, which allows me to move through it in a way that I feel supported, heard, and ultimately able to successfully move through it. So those two things are kind of what I want to send you each away with, is paying attention to what is your rhythm? What is that natural rhythm? And again, tapping into things such as how quickly you talk, how quickly you move, how quickly you make decisions, how busy you like to be. All of those things inform what your natural rhythm might be, if it's more fast, more slow, or maybe it swings and it's kind of like on a pendulum depending on your mood and your emotion, but knowing kind of what that natural range is for your rhythm. And then starting to kind of explore what a sentimental playlist might be for your loved one, but also creating your power playlist and maybe getting into your chill and relax playlist or whatever you want to call it. And just really start using those recorded music as a way to connect more so than maybe what you're doing already. So a couple of websites for you. Musictherapy.org is the official American Music Therapy Association website, which is our national organization for music therapy. CBMT.org is the board certification. So it's the certification board for musictherapy.org. And both of these websites are incredibly helpful because they both have little search features on Find a Music Therapist. So you can use that to see what music therapist is in your area. And then Harmonic Changes is my company's website. And on there, we have some free resources. We have some YouTube videos that we've created with on-screen lyrics for some sing-alongs. We have a music and meditation video. We have some drumming videos, a bunch of free resources on there that we continually are updating and trying to add more and more to. And then should you have the desire to reach out because you want any more information, here is our email address and a phone number to reach. And again, it's an LA-based number because we are in Los Angeles and in Chicago. And I know I'm a couple minutes early. I always do. But I know that there's the Q&A feature in the chat box, or just the general. So if anybody has any questions.
Yes, I put my video on. Yes, if anyone could put their questions for Melissa in the chat box, or just any comments that you like to share. I know earlier there was a comment, Melissa, and it was such a great presentation. I personally do know your voice very well and your music. And it was very appreciated, the breathing exercise that we did at the beginning. It was so helpful. It really was. So we had one participant mention that. But can you kind of tell us or share with us how, since the pandemic, how has your sessions changed when you are with a client that you used to see on a regular basis in person, face to face?
Thank you for reminding me to talk about that. Absolutely. So a couple of things. Myself and my whole Chicago team are fully vaccinated. So we're very grateful and appreciative of that. So on a case-by-case basis, we are still providing in-person services with full mask and shield, keeping distance. We are very mindful and purposeful, again, aside from the therapeutic uses of music, but what instruments we're bringing in that can be sanitized, can be disinfected. We've actually partnered with a music instrument supply store online, West Music, and we've created instrument packages. So after that initial assessment, we can make an additional recommendation on which instruments to purchase. So then we're not sharing instruments or crossing over that way. But we also, within, coming up to a year almost since this pandemic started, we were able to take everything virtual within a weekend. So we do see a few of our older friends through telehealth, and that is through connection with their caregiver or support staff on the floor if they're in a facility. And kind of, we've learned having a Bluetooth speaker with a built-in microphone is a great way, because we can set up the video and then the Bluetooth speaker is right next to them so they can control the volume and hear that way. And we have been really successful with the telehealth platform as well. So whether services are in person or telehealth is influenced by a few factors of what's clinically going to be appropriate and successful. We know telehealth isn't appropriate for everybody. And then if it's in person, ensuring that we're abiding by all of the latest safety protocols. And every day before we even leave our house, we call everybody and we go through the CDC COVID screening checklist.
Great. Okay. Well, that's very helpful information. Melissa has put all her contact information for those of you to share. Also, do know that all of the sessions today will eventually be on a YouTube channel. So if you weren't able to join us on this President's Day, snowy day, you can see them on the YouTube channel. And also do view Melissa's. Some of her programs are on there as well. I did happen to listen to your Jingle Bells one. It was fun. It was during a festive time, and it was great and upbeat. And thank you for all of that information on the different playlists and suggestions. I'm just looking to see if there's any more questions before Melissa leaves us. Okay. Oh, well, that was the, how about, here's a question from Linda. What changes have you noticed in the last year with your clients?
Yes. So I'm assuming that question is pertaining to changes in regards to COVID specific, or
just probably I'm thinking that based on what I'm hearing is either a decline or something.
Yes, COVID. Okay. Yeah. So predictably, we've seen an increase in feelings of isolation. We've seen an increase in needing more connection. And a lot of what we've been focusing on, again, is taking those little musical journeys and tapping into songs that are a way to feel connected with those loved ones. The nice thing I will say that telehealth has provided is we can, now if we're connecting remotely, we can have children from all over the world join in on those music sessions. But in general, I would say a lot of what we've seen in session hasn't directly changed compared to pre-COVID. The biggest changes obviously are not having visits from friends and family and loved ones as frequently. So on our end, we're doing a lot more reaching out to connect with them outside of our sessions. But aside from that, like I said, we've been pretty consistent with being able to not stop seeing clients and continue working on those goals. I hope that answers the question. It's kind of a vague answer, but
no, that was great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Melissa.
Well, I was going to say, I do have a few more minutes if we wanted to wrap up with connecting with the harp again.
Absolutely. I'm for it.
Okay. I always, like I said, I love starting and ending presentations like this, but I also wanted to allow time for questions. So perfect. Okay. And I'm gonna, if I stop share, there we go. Okay. So again, if your body has shifted during this hour, find yourself in a position with both feet on the floor. And as you are settling into that position, let your body slowly relax and fall where it feels natural and comfortable. Allow your body to rest against the back of your chair or some sort of support behind you. And taking notice as your body gently starts to relax and settle, noticing where your feet are and your legs. Noticing how your shoulders might feel a little heavier as they're slowly relaxing. Allowing your head and your neck to gently fall where it feels comfortable and natural. And closing your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. And we're going to match the inhale with the upstrum and the exhale with the downstrum. So inhale. And exhale. And inhale. One last inhale. And exhale.
Oh, that was great. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Okay.